Hey everyone, I'm Tassenix. Welcome back to another mod guide. I'm excited to get started here on the Inquisitorius faction. Just wrapping up the Seer Unaligned Force users in the last video talking about Ninth Sister had me thinking about how to jump right in on this one, so here we are. That said, in Grand Arena, Third Sister is certainly the best leadership for Inquisitorius. If you didn't have her, you might use Grand Inquisitor or Fifth Brother instead. But for the purpose of this video and for the entire faction series, we'll go ahead and assume that you're using Third Sister as lead. I'm also going to be calling her Riva interchangeably throughout the video, so don't get confused, please. Alright, we'll start with her leadership. Harbored Aggression. Inquisitorius allies gain 40% max health, 20% offense, 30 speed, and are immune to stun. At the start of the encounter and whenever an Inquisitorius ally is defeated or defeats an enemy, all enemies are inflicted with 5 stacks of Purge, maximum of 6 for the rest of the encounter, which can't be resisted. Inquisitorius ally attacks always score a critical hit, if able, against enemies with at least 5 stacks of Purge. And whenever an enemy recovers protection or gains protection up, all enemies lose 2% defense, stacking maximum of 50% for the rest of the encounter. So yeah, just this last effect punishes a variety of light side teams that restore protection or gain protection up. Sure, there's dark siders too, but I mean, there's more light side teams that take advantage of this effect. So this is punishing here, but this is really interesting, right? We have a stat gain for everybody, off-rip, immunity to stun. Interestingly enough, we get to throw out these 5 stacks of Purge at battle start whenever we kill somebody or whenever one of our guys dies, and it's important because while the enemies have the 5 stacks of Purge, all of our attacks will crit, if able, you know? So when you think about that, you think that the enemy team has a strong incentive to try and get rid of that Purge, right? That's a real problem. You don't want to keep that on you. Okay, well, if you have the Grand Arena Omicron applied, it says, while in Grand Arenas, whenever an ally or an enemy is defeated, all Inquisitorius allies gain defense penetration up for 2 turns. Whenever Purge is dispelled during an enemy's turn, that character, excluding Galactic Legends, gains Deathmark for 2 turns, which can't be dispelled or resisted. Let me pull that up here. I've got that definition on screen in case you forgot. So, if you have the Deathmark debuff on you, it says enemies will target this unit, meaning that they can ignore taunt to go right after this. And then you will take minus 50% of your health as damage if damaged by an attack. If you hit a raid boss that has this, they take 0.03% of their max health. And if a character that has this debuff dies, they can't be revived. Alright? So, nasty. You don't want to have it on you. Alright. Let's go to her base unique here, Impatience. At the start of battle, if all allies, minimum of 3, are Inquisitorius, this character gains 20% critical damage, max health, and offense. So yeah, she's gaining 40% max health from the lead, and 20 here, and then what, 20% health, or 20% offense from the lead, and 20% offense here. It's all stacking up, right? This character taunts for 2 turns at the start of the encounter, and whenever an ally or enemy is defeated. Whenever an enemy damages this character with an attack while attacking out of turn, that enemy gains a stack of Purge, maximum of 6, which can't be evaded or resisted. Whenever Purge is consumed or dispelled, this character gains 3% turn meter. Okay, nice effects. Her next unique, Driven by Revenge. Third Sister gains another 30% max health and 30 speed. Third Sister takes reduced damage from percent health damage effects, and at the start of battle, and when she's defeated for the first time, she gains Hatred for the rest of the battle. So, she gains Hatred twice, right? At battle start and after the first time she's defeated. Let me pull that up on screen in case you guys forgot how that ability works from Darth Sion's kit. Characters that have this buff, it says that increase offense and defense by 100% and crit chance by 25%. When this unit is defeated, they revive with 100% health and gain 100% turn meter. Alright? Pretty good. Now, so she gets to die a total of 3 times in the fight, right? So she gets Hatred twice. Whenever Third Sister is revived, she gains 100% offense and defense, stacking maximum of 200%, and 25% critical chance for the rest of the encounter, stacking maximum of 50%. Whenever Purge is dispelled during an enemy's turn, or when an enemy uses an attack that damages more than one ally, all enemies gain 1 stack of Purge and Third Sister taunts for 2 turns. Okay, that's a lot going on right there, but now we've got the GAC Omicron effect. Whenever Third Sister is revived from Hatred, so after Death 1 and Death 2, the cooldown of Unyielding Onslaught is refreshed, and she gains 100% offense until her next attack, and ignores taunt effects for 1 turn. So we'll cover what the Unyielding Onslaught does in just a moment, but that's just important to recognize that you're gonna have that added offense, the freedom to ignore taunt, and when you use, we'll talk about that in a second. All right, let's go on to her basic. No more hiding. Deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict a stack of Purge, maximum of 6 for the rest of the encounter, which can't be evaded. If target enemy is already inflicted with Purge, inflict ability block for 2 turns, and dispel all debuffs on Third Sister. So, ability block on basic is an uncommon skill, really nice to have. We build up Purge with it, but most crucially, and it's easy to forget this, she can use her basic to dispel debuffs off herself. Alright, her first special, Unyielding Onslaught. Deal physical damage to target enemy and recover health equal to the amount of damage dealt. For each stack of Purge on the enemy, this attack deals 30% more damage, so with 6 stacks, 180% more damage. If Third Sister is at full health after using this ability, inflict Armor Shred on target enemy for the rest of the encounter. So this ability does the damage first, checks your health, and then if you pass the health check, then you apply the Armor Shred. Alright? So we can see from that Omicron on Driven by Revenge that, whenever you're getting this hatred bonus, you're ignoring taunt, gaining this added offense. You could use this ability to just smite a weakling on the enemy team. However, that unique effect says that you get the added offense and can ignore taunt and use whatever ability on that turn. It's just this one gets reset. So maybe a reasonable alternative, instead of using this, would be to use the next special, Reckless Sweep. Deal physical damage to all enemies and consume 1 stack of Purge from each enemy. If all enemies had at least 1 stack of Purge, inflict defense down and healing immunity on all enemies for 2 turns, which can't be dispelled, evaded, or resisted, and all Inquisitorious allies gain 20% turn meter. Otherwise, inflict defense down and healing immunity on all enemies for 2 turns. Alright, now, the Grand Arena Omicron effect. All Inquisitorious allies gain critical damage up for 2 turns and have their cooldowns reduced by 1. Sounds pretty cool, but it's especially good when we consider the turn order that Third Sister has on the team. That's as good a time as any to pivot over there. So, let's talk about team comps and turn order. For everything you see on this screen, these teams are shown in terms of the character desired turn order, not who's the leadership. I'll spend a couple minutes talking here about your different ideas for team comps and stuff, since we'll be referring back to this video in the other Inquisitorious characters going forward. So that said, in the main 5 vs 5 team, this is your primo team. 7th Sister, fastest of the bunch, followed by 5th Brother, then 8th Brother, then Grand Inquisitor, then 3rd Sister. So why this turn order? 7th Sister is able to use her Dispel to hopefully purge the taunt off of the tank. Some tanks have the effects that, if you dispel their taunt can come right back. We take that into consideration with the next character. 5th Brother throws an AoE Dispel that can also apply Expose to each target. Then you have 8th Brother, who throws an AoE physical that can apply Burning to all targets. Then you have Grand Inquisitor, who can use Torture to give a whole bunch of buffs to his team, in addition to everything offensively that skill does. Or you could use the AoE physical damage that also can ability block targets, and equalize everybody else's health and protection as well. So you're doing, this targeted Dispel with 7th Sister off rip, And then you have AoE after AoE after AoE, and now all 4 of these characters have gone and used these specials. Now Third Sister could go and use her second special to decrease everybody's cooldowns by 1 and bring that same AoE, hell attack back around again, right? So that's the biggest reason to have her as the base of the team. Nothing she does to make her really shine. Like, if you wanted her to be the first character on this team, you would have to have Seventh Sister much slower, right? I mean, Seventh Sister is going to end up being a much faster character. Maybe you'd want Third Sister to be first so you could get that armor shred out, but it just isn't worth it. Let all these other effects take their place and use Third Sister, shown in this order. Now, let's say you didn't have Third Sister. A reasonable alternative for 5 vs 5 would be to have Ninth Sister in her stead. Yes, Riva gains a whole bunch of damage and is a serious offensive threat in her own right, but she is the tank for this team. So without her, Ninth Sister really does a great job. And that's whether or not you're choosing to run the team under Grand Inquisitor's lead or Fifth Brother's lead. We'll go into detail more about how those leaderships could be applied within those characters' respective videos. In 3 vs 3, the premium version of the team is Seventh Sister lead, or not Seventh Sister lead, but rather Third Sister lead with Seventh Sister and Grand Inquisitor, okay? Barring, again, if you don't have Third Sister, you might consider some type of split, maybe like this. These are both kind of like B bordering on C teams in this configuration. But, in 3 vs 3, if you otherwise weren't going to do anything else with them, if you've invested the resources into these characters, maybe Second Sister for her ship, and then the rest of these working to get your Riva, you might consider setting this split. So it's not particularly strong, but it is an effective use of resources, and, your opponent can't throw literally nothing at it. So there's a thought. Okay, let's go back in and talk about her mods in particular. Let me show you on this view. Now, I went ahead and compared myself to a couple of the other top players, and I saw that we're basically in keeping with the same spot. So I'll go ahead and just cover my mods. As far as set types go, working from the outside in, we see how much percent offense and health we get out of this kit, right? Like 90% max health she feeds herself. I want to say like 40% offense, right? And crit damage to boot. So that leads us kind of naturally into offense sets. 4-piece of offense with a 2-piece of health. Making the most of all those health gains would mean that we try to pick up health primaries wherever we could, right? So if you had the option, it would be great if you could have a health primary for circle, of course, but then also for cross and arrow as well. A crit damage triangle makes great sense for this character who's going to be critting most of the time anyway, just because of the purge effect. And if not, she's gaining that stacking crit chance every time she's dying with that hatred bonus effect, right? So crit damage seems like an intuitively good choice to build on as well. As far as amount of stat and health priority of stat, speed, that kind of thing, I would say a great base mark for her speed would be about 300. If you had to be a little less, that's fine, but we still want this character to move right along. What's important, of course, is that you maintain the turn order, right? We want her to be the slowest of the bunch, but remember, she is handing out speed to the entire team, 30 speed, but she's also giving herself an additional 30 speed from her unique, so you need to keep that in mind. You can ignore the speed she hands out to everybody when thinking about how to clock the team, but you'll have to add 30 onto her own character. So mine's 307, she'll be 337, excluding the leadership bonus, and that means that my Grand Inquisitor should be a minimum of 338 to keep the turn order that I'm looking for, right? So otherwise, we can see here that at Relic 9 I have about 115,000 health with all of those health primaries that I mentioned. Figure you could take about 15,000 health off of this going down to Relic 7, so maybe you'd be somewhere around 100,000 health at Relic 7. The protection that I have, I didn't put any particular amount of emphasis on it. It's nice if you have it. It helps when you do your equalization move with Grand Inquisitor to have more survivability stat to share with everybody. That's fine. But health is where the big gains are, so that's where I put the emphasis. If you happen to stack any additional prot, that's okay. As far as offense goes, yeah, I've got just about 3,000 offense added, just a hair under 8,900 offense. You figure you could take like 1,200 off, so maybe like 7,700, 78, something like that if you're like Relic 7 somewhere down there. But as far as her being a tank goes, you know I usually say I don't like my tanks under 70% armor. In that particular case is assuming that you're not really having anything else come into the fight to enhance your defenses. We know that after each time she dies for the first 2 deaths, she's gaining 100 defense, 100% defense stacking, right, each time. So we don't have to be so concerned about being under 70% to start with. We'll become nastier as the fight goes on. That being said, let's say that you're a little constrained about your primaries for cross and for arrow. This cross could be offense if you had to. That is an okay choice. You can only get a maximum of 8.5% offense from an offense primary, right? Whereas the max gain for percent health is 16%. Let's consider the reverse. If you have an offense primary with a percent health secondary, the best I've ever seen is like an 8-point-something%, right? So just about half the benefit of the primary. That's why, in particular, for Third Sister, it's such a better benefit to have the health primary if you can. But if you're constrained, then fine. Go with offense and maybe work your way towards getting that health eventually, all right? Likewise, same goes for the arrow. It would be best if it were a fast health primary arrow with some percent offense to boot and, robust speed. But barring that, you could also go offense. But if it's going to help you maintain that minimum that I'm kind of encouraging you to have of about 300 speed on her, if you had to do that with a speed arrow and maybe get some health percent, offense percent secondaries rolling besides, I could live with that too. So you don't have to be as high as I am on any of these numbers, but you want to first start with making sure that your turn order's intact, then optimize for health over offense, over defense, over more speed. And I'd say that's about the way to do it. Last but never least, I wanted to talk about applications. I know you guys are usually curious about this. So we've already had Datacron sets come and go for Inquisitorius. We do have in Datacron set 15 right now an Inquisitorius Datacron. Makes this really, really powerful, but I don't want to necessarily assume that. I'll try and point you, the right way right now for whether or not you have the Datacrons. Inquisitorius is really effective against anything in Grand Arena that's got some type of dispel, right? So you've got Finn Zori, where Finn is always hiding from you under stealth, but she also dispels allies and, turbocharges them. Well, when she dispels people, she'll give herself Death Mark and you can just destroy them. That's why this is a cinch. You can apply, the anti-Jedi synergy in this kit is historically great against JML and JMK. Especially right now with the Inquisitorius Cron, this is definitely a slam dunk. Of course, against Leia, R2, I want to say both R2 and Drogon have dispel effects, so they can each death mark themselves. That sets them up pretty well. Likewise, you have the cleanse effect from Rex. Rex Krex would fall. Kelleran, you would not be surprised to learn that just about any type of Jedi lead team is easy prey for the Inquisitorius, right? So yes, against Kelleran Beck, virtually any flavor. Qui-Gon J.K. Cam. Of course, wow, look at this other stuff, EP Mara Jade Starkiller. That makes sense, because this is a really strong offense, but not as much a defense. People have tried it in the past against Jabba. In metas of old, it was stronger. Against the new Gungans, it's not looking so great. Mirror matches are always kind of crap. But you kind of, oh yeah, of course, Saw. Boy, have I enjoyed that in seasons past. We had this Chiricron recently that expired, but Inquisitorius was a cheap fix to that before, and it's even more effective now. There's cleanse on these teams, and they just die. That's pretty much it. Okay, 3 versus 3 wise, I think we're covered. Let's talk about 5 versus 5. Yeah, it's going to be mostly the same suspects. Self-cleansers, Jedi. That's about it. Your Finzoris, your Kels, your Qui-Gons, JMK, JML. Mind your Jabba, mind your DTMG. Looks like those can be risky. But, oh yeah, very ambitious to take on the Slacker right now with the current First Order Crons, but apparently people were doing it last season before that. Yeah, a little bit riskier to take on Rebels and Jedi. That makes sense, but it's still doable. And then, of course, you're just going to stomp any number of these lesser teams that may feature some dispel mechanics that you get to feast upon. Oh yeah, see, it was beating Gungans last season before they had the Datacron. It might be a different story now. I think they still work, though. I've heard people using Inquisitorius against the new Gungan Cron with good effect. So this is an offensive powerhouse team. There are a ton of mechanics in this faction for manipulating both the allies and the enemies. I can't wait to go over everybody with you. So I think that about wraps this one up. Thank you guys for continuing to be encouraging here in the comments. I've had a whole lot of you join Discord and reach out. The responses have been overwhelmingly positive. I appreciate that. There are a lot of folks that are looking for exactly this information, and I'm so happy it's useful to you guys. If you're enjoying these videos, please give this one a like and give a subscribe to the channel so you're notified to see more. You know, I really appreciate that support. I'm trying to grow the channel organically all the way up to 1,000 subscribers so I can, you know, YouTube's going to run ads on my stuff anyway, but maybe I can, you know, take a nibble of a nickel here or there. So appreciate you guys' support. We're pushing on and gaining, gosh, more than 100 channel subscribers just in the last month since I started making this series. So really, thank you guys so much. And yeah, until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.